Have you ever thought about how much tech is changing how we grow food?
Mm.
It's not just cool tractors anymore.
Wow.
Like today we're doing a deep dive into ag tech and this company, Pharmanaut.
Yo.
They use satellites to help farmers watch their crops,
Yeah.
like a Fitbit, but for a whole field.
Wow, that's neat.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for what we're talking about, this tiny pest, thrips.
Thrips.
They cause huge GE problems.
Yeah, those little guys, despite their size, they can really make a dent in a farm's yield.
Seriously,
Yeah.
they're only a couple millimeters long,
Tiny.
but they can mess things up big time.
Yeah.
It's like they're the ninjas of the insect world. You don't even know they're there until bam damage is done.
Right.
So before we get to how Pharmanaut helps spot them, why are thrips such a pain for farmers in the first place?
Well, the first thing is they reproduce like crazy.
Oh, no.
Multiple generations in just one growing season.
Wow.
So infestations happen fast,
So
and they aren't picky eaters either.
I was reading, they attack, all kinds of crops.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Like, they love strawberries, tomatoes, grapes, cucumbers,
Oh, no.
even those pretty chrysanthemums people have in their gardens.
So no plant is safe.
Pretty much.
So basically, if you like fruits and veggies, you should care about thrips.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's not even just them munching on the plants.
Oh.
They spread viruses, too.
Oh, no, really? Plant viruses.
Yeah, like they're little flying disease vectors.
Ugh, that's rough. So it's like a double whammy, damage, and then the risk of the whole field getting sick.
Right, exactly.
No wonder farmers want to get rid of them.
For sure.
But how do they even know they have thrips? Are they out there with magnifying glasses on every leaf?
No, that would take forever.
Right.
Especially on big farms. I mean, traditionally they'd look around, use sticky traps,
Well, let's go.
but that's often too late.
Oh, so by the time you see the damage.
It's already a big problem.
So that's where Pharmanaut and their satellites come in, right?
Yes.
How does that even work?
So they use something called multispectral imaging.
Okay.
It's like how we see color, but way more advanced.
Mm,
Plants reflect light differently depending on if they're healthy or not.
right.
This tech picks up on those tiny changes.
Oh, interesting.
Like a healthy plant might reflect a ton of near-infrared light,
Okay.
but one that's stressed, maybe from thrips damage, reflects less.
I see.
And that's how Pharmanaut can see problems before we even notice anything on the plant itself.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
It
It's
is.
like they're giving farmers superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah.
To see what's happening from space.
Yeah.
Incredible. But just seeing the problem isn't enough, right?
Yeah, not really.
You got to know what to do about it.
Exactly.
So how do farmers fight back against these tiny invaders?
Well, there isn't one magic solution.
Okay.
It often involves what we call integrated pest management, or IPM.
IPM. So what does integrated actually mean in this context?
So it's like combining different strategies to get the best results.
Yeah.
Could be things like cultural controls, keeping weeds down so thrips have fewer hiding spots.
Makes sense. So it's like making their environment less comfy.
Right.
Got it.
And then there's biological controls, which is bringing in their natural predators.
Ooh, like good bugs versus bad bugs.
Exactly.
Oh.
Like ladybugs, everyone knows those, but there are also these tiny wasps and mites that specifically go after thrips.
Wow. Like a tiny army you release.
That's a good way to think about it.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, there's chemical controls, but those are kind of a last resort.
I get it.
Insecticides have to be used carefully.
Right. Because of the environment and all.
Yeah, exactly. You have to think about the impact on everything else.
It's like choosing the right medicine.
It is. You don't want to overdo it.
Right. And Pharmanaut's tech helps with that, right?
Yes, it gives farmers a much clearer picture, so they can make better decisions about what to use and when.
So it's not just reacting when it's bad. It's being proactive.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. I bet there's a ton of other cool tech stuff they do, but we'll get into that later.
Here.
First, I want to know more about how to actually control these thrips. What are the options?
So there's a whole range of approaches.
Okay.
Best one depends on what crop you're talking about and how bad the infestation is.
Right.
Some farmers use organic methods, which can work really well if you do them right.
Yeah, I was reading about those organic options.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are pretty wild,
Like what?
like neem oil,
Yeah.
insecticidal soaps,
Uh-huh.
and even fossilized algae.
Oh, diatomaceous earth.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, those are all pretty common.
It's crazy, right?
It is.
Nature has all these ways of dealing with pests already.
That's true.
But I'm guessing it's not always easy, is it?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Sometimes organic just isn't enough.
especially if it's a really bad infestation,
Exactly.
even with the regular insecticides.
Right, the thrips can actually build up resistance over time.
Oh no, so they become like super thrips.
Kinda, yeah.
That's a little scary.
It's a constant battle trying to stay ahead of them.
Yeah, it's like an arms race, right?
Good way to put it.
Farmers versus these tiny bugs.
You need knowledge, good tech, and gotta be able to adapt quickly.
Sounds like Farmer helping with that.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. But before we get back to them, I want to know more about how this works on different crops.
Okay.
Like, are some harder to protect than others?
Yeah. Each crop has its own challenges.
Right.
But grapes are notorious for being susceptible to thrips damage.
Oh, interesting. Why grapes?
Well, they have a long growing season.
Okay.
And those berries are really delicate, perfect for thrips to attack.
Like a thrips buffet.
You could say that.
So what can you even DO to protect grapevines?
One thing is reflective mulch.
Mulch.
Yeah, it disorients the thrips, makes it harder for them to find the vines.
No, sneaky.
And sometimes they use kaolin clay on the grapes themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, it creates a barrier the thrips can't get through.
Like armor for the grapes.
Exactly.
That's clever.
It is.
What about those good bugs, the predators? Do they work on grapes too?
They can,
Okay.
but you gotta choose the right ones.
Right.
Like some types of predatory mites are really good against grape thrips.
Look, every pest has its own enemy.
Pretty much. It's like this whole web of relationships out there in nature.
That's fascinating.
It is, and understanding that is key to figuring out how to manage pests the right way.
So you don't mess up the balance of things.
Exactly. Control the pests, but not wreck the whole ecosystem.
Which brings us back to that IPM idea.
Yep.
It's not justy about killing bugs, it's bigger than that.
It's about working with nature, not against it.
Totally.
And technology like Pharmanauts is helping a lot with that.
Definitely sounds like it.
So we were talking about how Pharmanaut uses satellites.
Right, to give farmers that early warning about thrips.
Exactly.
I'm curious how that actually works in practice, you know?
Yeah.
Do farmers just get, like, a text message saying, watch out for thrips?
Huh. Not quite that simple,
Okay.
but it's getting close.
Hmm.
So Pharmanaut system, it gives farmers these detailed maps
Oh.
and data visualizations,
Okay.
highlighting the areas they need to focus on.
Gotcha.
So they can see which parts of their fields are showing signs of stress.
Okay.
That might be from thrips, even if you can't see it with your eyes yet.
So it's like a thrips heat map.
You got it.
That's really useful.
It is. It lets farmers target their scouting.
Right, so they're not wasting time checking healthy plants.
Exactly. They can zero in on where the problems are most likely.
And then they can confirm if it's actually thrips and deal with it.
Right, before it gets out of control.
That's smart.
And it helps them use insecticides more strategically, too.
Oh, right, so they're not just spraying everything.
Which is good for the environment.
Yeah, for sure.
Less chemicals overall.
Right, and less impact on the good bugs.
Exactly.
Win-win for everyone.
It is. It's a win for the farmer and a win for the environment.
Okay, cool.
And Pharmanaut doesn't just detect thrips.
Oh, there's more?
They also use weather data
Oh, wow.
and predictive modeling to anticipate outbreaks.
Wait, so they can tell when thrips are going to attack?
It's not quite telling the future,
Okay.
but it's getting pretty close.
How does that even work?
Well, thrips are really influenced by the weather.
Makes sense, I guess.
They like it warm and dry.
Oh, okay.
So Pharmanaut's system looks at past weather data and current forecasts to identify periods when thrips are most likely to be active.
So they're like thrips forecasters.
You could say that.
That's pretty cool.
It gives farmers a heads up so they can prepare.
So instead of waiting for an infestation.
Right. They can be proactive.
Awesome. I love that.
And that might mean doing things like releasing beneficial insects.
Right. The good bugs.
Exactly. Or maybe applying organic treatments.
So before the thrips even get there.
Exactly. It's all about being ahead of the game.
That's a game changer.
It is. It's a whole new way of thinking for a lot of farmers.
Yeah. From reactive to proactive.
Exactly.
That's really cool. And I bet the technology is just going to get better and better.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the beginning.
I can't wait to see what they come up with next.
It's an exciting time for ag tech, that's for sure.
Totally. Okay, but let's zoom out a little bit now.
Okay.
We've been talking about how thrips affect the crops.
Right.
But what about us, the people who eat the food?
Yeah, good point.
We talked about yields and quality,
Uh-huh.
but how does that translate to what we see in the grocery store?
So strips damage can lead to a lot of different problems.
Okay.
Things like cosmetic defects, smaller fruits, even changes in how things taste.
So like those weird-shaped strawberries or tiny tomatoes you sometimes see.
Could be from thrips.
Interesting.
And even if you can't see the damage, it can still affect the quality. Really?
Like thrips feeding on grapes can make them less sweet.
Oh, wow. So it's not just how they look.
It affects the flavor, too.
That's pretty crazy.
And all these quality issues can drive up prices for everyone.
Right, because farmers have to charge more to make up for the losses.
Exactly. So those tiny thrips end up affecting all of us.
Even if we don't realize it.
It's true. It all connects back to what happens on the farm.
But there are things we can do as consumers to help, right? Like, what can we do to support sustainable agriculture and minimize these problems?
Well, one thing is to choose locally grown produce whenever you can.
Okay, makes sense.
That reduces the distance the food has to travel.
Right, less transportation.
Which lowers the risk of pests spreading to new areas.
That's a good point. What about organic produce?
Yeah, choosing organic is another great way to support farmers who are doing things right.
Okay.
Organic farmers are usually already using those preventative measures.
Okay.
Biological controls, natural pesticides.
To manage pests like thrips.
So buying organic is like indirectly helping in the fight against thrips.
You could say that.
I like that.
And as people learn more about these issues,
Right, the more they know
the better choices they can make.
about where their food comes from and how it's grown.
Right. It's all about being informed.
Like voting with your dollar, right?
Exactly. Supporting the farmers who are doing things the right way.
And hopefully that encourages more farmers to adopt those sustainable practices.
That's the goal.
It's encouraging to hear that.
It is. It's not just about fighting bugs.
Right, it's bigger than that.
It's about creating a better food system overall.
One that's sustainable and can bounce back from challenges.
Exactly.
I love how this whole conversation has taken us from these tiny thrips
Yeah.
all the way to, like, the global food system.
It's all connected.
It really shows you how everything is connected.
It does. It's a fascinating web of relationships.
And understanding those connections is key to creating a healthier and more sustainable future.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, one last question before we move on.
Okay.
We've been talking about how thrips can become resistant to insecticides.
Right. It's a big problem.
Is there anything being done about that?
Yeah, scientists are working on it all the time.
Okay, good.
One promising area is biopesticides.
Biopesticides?
Yeah, they're made from natural sources.
Oh.
Like bacteria, fungi, or even viruses.
Wow.
And they often target pests more specifically.
So less collateral damage.
Right, and they're less likely to harm beneficial insects or the environment in general.
So it's like smarter pest control.
Exactly, finding ways to fight the bad bugs without resorting to chemical warfare all the time.
I like that.
And there's also a lot of research into breeding plants that are naturally resistant to thrips.
That would be amazing.
It would. Imagine crops that can defend themselves.
No more pesticides needed.
It's a dream, but it takes time.
Right. Developing those resistant varieties is a long process.
But it's definitely an area to watch.
Sounds like there's a lot happening in this field.
There is. It's an exciting time.
Very cool. So for now, it seems like the best strategy is to combine the new tech with those classic IPM methods.
I think so. It's about finding the right balance.
Using all the tools we have to manage these pests in a smart and sustainable way.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about thrips and how tech, like Farmanauts, is helping farmers.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how these tiny things can cause so much trouble, huh?
Right. It makes you think about all the work that goes into the food we eat.
Definitely.
So as we wrap up, I'm curious about the future of dealing with these thrips.
The future.
That's got you excited, like what new stuff is coming down the line.
Well, one thing that's super promising is AI.
AI, artificial intelligence for thrips.
You bet. Like, we're already using it to look at those satellite images.
Right.
Finding patterns that might mean there's a pest problem.
Okay.
But as it gets smarter, AI could actually predict outbreaks.
Oh, wow.
Even better than we can now.
That's wild.
And it could even tell farmers what to do about it, like specific actions to take.
Based on all that data it's gathered.
Exactly. Like having a super smart farm advisor 24/7.
That's incredible.
And AI can help with developing those biopesticides we were talking about.
Oh, right.
And even those resistant crop varieties.
So it could speed things up.
Yeah, it could look at tons of genetic info.
Right.
Find the genes that make plants tough against thrips.
Wow, that's like next level stuff.
It is. It's like tech and biology are teaming up.
To make a better food system.
For sure. One that's more sustainable and can handle whatever comes at it.
That's really cool.
It is an exciting time to be in this field.
Definitely.
Like you have all these different areas, agronomy, engineering, data science, genetics, they're all coming together.
To solve these big problems.
Exactly.
That's hopeful. But even with all this tech, it seems like those basic IPM ideas are still important.
Absolutely.
Like, you can't just rely on gadgets.
Nope. You got to understand the pests themselves,
Their biology.
how the whole farm ecosystem works.
Right, it's all connected.
It is. Tech is a tool, but it works best when you're using it with a smart, holistic approach.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yep. The new and the old ways, the high tech, and the time-tested.
Working with nature, not trying to fight it.
Exactly. So we can have plenty of food and be a healthy planet.
Well said. This whole thrips deep dive has been fascinating.
Glad you enjoyed it.
I'll never look at my produce the same way again.
Me neither.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of thrips, everyone.
Hope you learned something new.
Until next time, stay curious and remember, even the tiniest things can have a big impact.